It's outdated. You know, they tell people on benefits that they're scroungers. You've got the biggest family in the country on benefits that are scroungers, right? They're telling
You think they're scroungers?
The taxpayers pay for the royal family. But they do for people on benefits, but they don't call them scroungers, do they? Huh? The royal family have been scroungers all their life, mate.
So the money that is paid from the taxpayer to help fund all this,
in
your mind, should go, yeah?
Which is benefit, and it should go. The whole family should go. Just a waste of space, mate.
So we strip...
No family should be hand and spoon and doing nothing. Right?
It depends what you mean by doing nothing, of course, because
people can't afford to go abroad and things like that, and yet they can go abroad and just get everything handed foot down to them. You know, people are struggling with heating.
They are, absolutely. But Sean, I think to say
the royals are going to get their heating paid for.
So,
you know what I mean? This is what we're going to understand why one family gets so much and other people suffering.
What do you feel you get from the royal family?
Nothing. They're a waste of space, mate.
It was one of those days when the national mood felt heavy, the air thick with unspoken frustrations, and when Tom Swarbrick opened the LBC lines, he probably expected the usual cautious chorus. The polite defenders of the monarchy eager to remind everyone about tradition, the hesitant critics who whisper their discontent through clenched teeth, and the endless middle-of-the-road voices trying to keep one foot in loyalty and one foot in realism. But then came the caller, and from the very first syllable you could feel the anger radiating through the line, sharp, furious, and unapologetic, slicing through the pleasantries like a blade. There was no hesitation, no sugarcoating, no false reverence for crowns or titles. They went straight to the heart of the matter, declaring the royal family scroungers all their life and insisting they should simply go. And in that single word, scroungers, the caller didn't just insult, they detonated a truth bomb live on air, blowing apart the polished myth of royal duty and exposing the monarchy for what it looks like when you strip away the velvet and gold. A family leeching off the labor, taxes, and dignity of ordinary people while demanding applause for the privilege. It wasn't random fury. It was the voice of someone watching their bills rise, their wages stagnate, their public services collapse, and still being told they must grin and pay for platinum jubilees, extravagant weddings, military parades, and palaces so vast they could swallow entire towns of working families struggling just to keep the lights on. In one outburst, the caller tore down centuries of carefully manufactured mystique and left behind the raw reality. A dynasty living large not through merit, not through achievement, not through work, but through the simple accident of birth and the ruthless exploitation of history. What made the outburst so powerful is how perfectly it cut through the hypocrisy of the moment. Because while Harry and Meghan had already endured years of venom from the tabloids, years of being branded freeloaders and opportunists for daring to marry, love, and live differently, here was a voice from the British public spelling out the opposite. The real scroungers are not the Sussexes, who broke free from the royal purse, but the Windsors who remained inside the gilded cage expecting lifelong applause and taxpayer funding. The contrast could not be starker. Harry and Meghan had the courage to say no to the system, to cut the financial ties, to repay money spent on Frogmore, to build careers, to create content, to form their own charities, to hustle in a world that actually demands work, competition, and accountability. They chose independence and the struggle of standing on their own feet. Meanwhile, the rest of the royal family stayed nestled in the cocoon of inherited estates, duchy millions, taxpayer security, and untouchable privilege, performing public appearances as though waving from a balcony was the equivalent of service. The caller might not have said their names, but the subtext was glaringly obvious. If the monarchy represents parasitism, then Harry and Meghan represent the liberation from it. They are living proof that you can reject the scrounging model and still thrive, proof that the story Britain has been fed, that the royals are indispensable, is a lie. And the fury of that caller wasn't just about today's extravagances, It was centuries in the making. Strip away the fairy tale layers of crowns and processions and look at the monarchy historically. And what do you see? Not noble service, but relentless extraction. The crown was built on looted treasures, on wealth siphoned out of colonies, on land seized and never returned, on exploitation dressed up as empire. The diamond in the Queen's crown was torn from South Africa. Priceless jewels from India sit behind glass in British museums as if plunder can be rebranded as heritage. Palaces are filled with artifacts stolen from nations whose people were left impoverished and scarred. Yet the same media that dares to call Harry and Meghan grifters never dares to use the same language for the Windsors. That isn't just hypocrisy. It is satire so grotesque it borders on self-parody. A family that has scrounged for generations, living opulent lives while taxpayers pick up the bill, points the finger at the one couple who said, "We don't need your money, we'll make our own." The caller's rage wasn't just about the obscene luxury of the present moment. It was about the historical audacity, the shamelessness of a dynasty that continues to take while demanding respect, even after Meghan laid bare the cruelty and neglect she endured inside their gilded walls. The monarchy closed ranks to protect itself, but the public saw, and the caller gave voice to the discontent many were too afraid to say out loud. Tom Swarbrick did what broadcasters are trained to do. He tried to rein it in, to smooth the edges, to inject balance. But how do you balance a truth that raw? How do you weigh centuries of royal scrounging against families working 2 jobs just to afford food? How do you measure palaces against food banks? How do you reconcile endless parades and pageantry with hospitals on their knees, with nurses begging for fair wages, with citizens forced into impossible choices between heating and eating? You just can't. And that is exactly why the word scrounger stuck, because it demolished the carefully crafted illusion that the monarchy is about service and sacrifice. No, the monarchy is about performance, wealth, entitlement, and inherited status. Harry and Meghan lived it, saw it, and had the courage to leave it. The caller simply spoke the outrage that so many feel in silence, trapped between cultural pressure to bow and the daily reality of being squeezed by a system that privileges a few at the expense of the many. And let's linger for a moment on the hypocrisy the caller pointed toward, because it is honestly staggering. If Meghan Sussex, a self-made actress, a philanthropist, a woman of color, had stayed in that gilded system, she would have been branded the very thing the monarchy truly is, a scrounger. The tabloids would have had endless headlines about her living off the taxpayer, taking advantage, refusing to work. Yet when she and Harry broke free, when they stopped taking royal funds, when they repaid every penny for Frogmore renovations, when they began earning through production deals, podcasts, books, speaking engagements, the story flipped. Suddenly, they were grifters, money-hungry sellouts, opportunists. Meanwhile, Charles with his duchy millions, William with his inherited estates, Andrew with his murky financial scandals, the Queen with her hidden fortune, all carried on untouched, shielded from that brutal word, scrounger. That double standard is not accidental. It reveals what the hatred toward Harry and Meghan is truly about. It's not about money or service. It's about control. It's about the institution's terror of being exposed. It's about the panic that Harry and Meghan's independence makes the rest of the Windsors look exactly like what they are. Parasites feeding on the public purse while doing everything possible to maintain the illusion of sacrifice. That call mattered because it punctured the establishment's safety net. It shattered the myth that loyalty to the monarchy is universal, that the people will forever pay without protest, that questioning the royals is treasonous. It showed that there are voices, loud and unafraid, who are finished with the charade. And the longer Harry and Meghan thrive outside the monarchy, the sharper the word scrounger will sting those who remain inside. Because if the Sussexes can live without the taxpayers' money, then why can't William? Why can't Charles? Why can't the entire institution pay for itself rather than draining the people it claims to serve? That is the question the monarchy dreads, because the answer exposes the truth, the caller roared into the phone lines. They don't need the public's money. They just believe they are entitled to it. And entitlement, when stripped of its costumes and ceremony, is the very essence of scrounging.